The year is 1990. British fighter Herol Graham has been making a name for himself with a record of 43-2. After a controversial loss for the WBA World Middleweight title to Mike McCallum, Graham goes back to the drawing board, deciding his best shot for a world title is against the Hawk Julian Jackson for the vacant WBC middleweight title. Julian is a man famous for his devastating knockout power with a record of 40-1. Can Graham overcome the odds and outbox the wrecking ball that is Julian Jackson gaining his first world title? Or will he get the treatment as everyone else, being sent momentarily to another dimension and having to find another belt to go after? Welcome back to Boxing After Dark, where today we look at a legendary fight of the early 90s with the magnificently slick boxer Herol Graham versus the infamous Terminator of the ring Julian Jackson. Let's get into it. Herol Graham had been slowly gathering up support by the British boxing fans. With a famously flamboyant style before the days of Eubank Sr., people gravitated to his genuine, kind-hearted nature, along with his quick mind in the ring. After racking up wins against many up-and-coming stars such as future IBF super middleweight title holder Lindell Holmes and former WBA light middleweight champion Ayub Khalil, Graham had become a national treasure. And after a controversial loss against Mike McCallum, people were excited for him to fight the villain from the Virgin Islands, Julian Jackson, a man you'd be hard-pressed to find outside of a top 3 hardest middleweight punchers of all time list. Whilst Graham had the brains in the ring, Jackson had the brawn, and it was destined to be another classic fight of the power versus the profound. Whilst Jackson was seen as a villain in the eyes of many middleweight fans of the ATS, no one could deny his presence in the ring, knowing that no matter who he fought, a knockout could always be on the horizon.
Whenever I enter the ring, I feel that I'm not going to go the distance. Regardless of what happened, I just feel that the fight will not go the distance.
The fight was exciting when announced, but wasn't without some controversy leading up to the big day. Jackson had damaged his retina during training, and after needing surgery, the British Boxing Board of Control refused to allow him to fight in the UK, so Graham and Jackson agreed to fight where the fighters themselves would be held accountable in the Torrequebrada Hotel in Andalusia, Spain. Whilst it was cited to be unprofessional of Jackson to accept the fight with surgery recently being done, not much fight was given from the fans due to the excitement he brought in the ring. The fans of Graham also didn't object, believing it would give Herol a better chance of victory, fighting a hawk with just one eye. The fight finally came on the 24th of November 1999. The British crowd were excited to see Graham continue his career and hopefully get another impressive win for his record, whilst fans of Jackson prayed for another one of Julian's iconic one-punch KOs.
More than any other British boxer. This is 12 for the opening round in the fancy pants.
Well, it's a more aggressive start from Graham Regden than we expected.
It's going to be very much of a chess match contest, Jim, this one, isn't it?
It's from Jackson.
Well, I don't know if there's anything seriously wrong with his eyesight, but there was with that punch. Mile away there, Jackson.
Almost impossible to double up on it.
Being the point taken away for his
punches, but accurate and keeping his man confused.
As round 1 begins, the bomber Herol Graham looks his usual slick self, standing his ground against the monster that is Jackson, outboxing him comfortably and landing upwards of 5 punch combinations at a time, beating Jackson around the ring not just to the fans, but seemingly Julian's surprise.
A bit of a frustrating touch about Jackson there, Jim. I'm a bit surprised.
He didn't didn't do a lot of work. Already he seems to be trying to liven up, but and he's blinking his eye already. I wonder if he's got eye damage already. Well, he's complaining. He's backing up out. He's just really covering up. He's not really throwing anything.
Obviously, ophthalmologist clearing.
Just the glove that's caught him there. Doesn't want to run onto anything here. Almost to see.
Contest, if a man goes down 3 times in 1 round and stop, it's not an impact here. No, he really does have a problem there, Jackson, so early in the contest.
Going into round 2, Graham keeps the pressure on, refusing to let Jackson put his frightening right hand to use. Herol focuses on Jackson's damaged eye, leaving Julian forced to defend without being able to throw anything back. Jackson attempts to get himself away from the ropes and cause some pain, but Graham outmaneuvered Julian. Putting his lack of balance and vision on show for the world, Jackson stumbles around the ring aimlessly.
And really, Jim, it's almost like Graham's calculated workouts at the moment. He's not extending himself at all. that punch all right, didn't he? As he walked over it, I should say, there was a good shot by Graham. Back in 77, and then Callum bayonet.
Round 3 is where things start warming up for not just Graham but Julian too. The fight opens up, and whilst Graham hits his most punches of the fight yet, Julian also starts throwing some more, and landing too. Graham stays focused on winning the round, which he does comfortably, but Jackson seems to be finding his footing in the fight.
Round 4. Oh, that was one of Graham's shoved there, a bit obvious.
He's maybe thinking... See, Graham's keeping him off balance all the time, Reg. He's not getting any power into his punches. They can't put punches together. Graham's there, then he's off. He's peppering him with little southpaw leads. Good boxing from Graham.
Yeah, but he's as sharp as a tack.
Backing him up for most of them.
Using every inch. Oh, what a punch! I can't believe that. Never been stopped in his career, and he's out to the world.
After a strong start from Graham, what many describe as the punch of the century happens out of nowhere, as Julian Jackson lands a devastating right hand, knocking Graham out and leaving him fully unconscious for 5 minutes straight. In his post-fight interview, Jackson explains that he knew that a win was coming for him by knockout, but Graham shocked him with his willingness to stand in the centre of the ring and trade, making his strategy harder. Graham was beating him for the first 3 rounds on all of the judges' scorecards, but Jackson's only plan was to line up his legendary one-punch KO, which he did to marvellous effect.
I kept on him, I kept the pressure on him, and I knew sometime in the ring or in the fight I would have got my shot off.
After winning the title, Julian seemed satisfied with the belt he had gotten for himself and would go on to make 5 title defences before coming up against another heavy hitter by the name of Herol McCallum, who knocked Jackson out brutally in the 5th round. After building his way back up in the middleweight division for a rematch with McCallum, Jackson would lose once again by knockout, this time in just the 1st round. Things started looking up for Jackson not long after. He finally won his title back after McCallum vacated the belt, beating Agostino Cardamone in classic Julian fashion. Julian would soon thereafter retire from the sport of boxing, and he now lives a quiet life back on the Virgin Islands, training his 3 sons, who are all professional boxers in their own rights. Graham, meanwhile, went on a downward spiral professionally after his loss to Jackson, losing his British middleweight title to Frank Grant, and retiring from the sport for 4 years. He came back for one more chance at an international title, but got knocked out in the 10th round against the hatchet, Charles Brewer. Graham hung up the gloves for good after the match, retiring professionally from boxing, and began working as a personal trainer, living quietly with his wife and son. If you've enjoyed this video and would like to see more, feel free to leave a like and don't be afraid to subscribe. Thank you for watching.